Hey guys, Liz Hogan here with STX. Today I'm going to be giving you a tutorial on how to string your launch tube pocket in this Crux 600 head. Be sure to check out the description below for all the materials you'll need, and once you get them, we're going to start on our top string. So the first thing we need to do before we start stringing the head is we need to make our vertical nylons. So to do that, we're going to make a slip knot, and that's simply taking the top end of your nylon, wrapping it around the main part of the nylon twice, and then coming back up, back where you started towards the loop, and bringing it back down to through those two gaps. And you're going to pull tight. And if you do it correctly, you should be able to move this up and down on the nylon. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Make a little slip knot, again going around twice. And then again, you can see you have these two holes. I'm just going to bring it back down through there and tie tight. All right, so we have our vertical nylons ready to go. So the next thing we need to do is our top string, which we need to make a double overhand knot for. So similar to our slip knot, we're going to go around twice, but then instead of coming back up, we're going to just bring it through the two loops that we just created, so that we have a nice double overhand knot. Okay, going through the first hole on the sidewall, we're going to bring our string through so that the knot is on the outside, and then we're going to start to attach our vertical runners. To do that, we're going to go from the back of the head, going down through the first top string hole, and then coming back up. You want to make sure that you make that loop around and come back from where you came from, and don't just go straight down and up like this. Okay, so really make sure that you come back up, catch that nylon that you sent through, so you have a nice knot. Then you're going to take your vertical runner and your top string, and you're just going to guide it right through that loop that you created. Now we're going to do a very similar step that we just did, but instead of going down through the back side, we're going to come up through the front side, and again going through that loop that we just created. So it should look like that. We can tighten up our nylon right now. We're going to proceed with the same exact steps, going down through the back side, coming back up, making sure we make that loop. And we're going to take our launch pocket. We want to make sure that our launch pocket is facing towards the front of the head, so that grippy side is facing towards the front where the ball will be. We're going to take our top string, guide it through that first hole, and then again coming up through the front side, going through that loop. Okay. Now the next step, we don't need to do anything with the top holes. We're just going to take the top string and guide it through that middle loop there. Okay. Then everything we just did, we're going to do the exact same thing going back towards the outside. So we're going to go from down, coming back up. We're going to go through that loop on the runner. Make sure the whole time you're going tight as well. Coming back up from the front side. And then we're going to finish again attaching our vertical runner with all the same steps. We're going to go through that big loop that we created. Coming back up. So in the last part, we're going to take this top string. We're going to guide it through from the inside out on that first sidewall hole at the top. And we're going to make another double overhand knot to secure the top string. So again, make two loops. I like to use my finger. Drive that through the hole. Make sure it's nice and snug and tight. And you can tighten your nylons. So we have our top string. The only thing we really need to do is to finish our runners here. So the nylons are pretty simple. They just go right through the outside holes on the scoop, or on the face of the head, at the throat. Now to secure the launch pocket, we need to do our bottom string. So we're going to take our bottom string, guide it through one of the inner holes, bring it through that launch pocket, those two loops right there, bring it back through the throat holes, and then we're just going to simply tie them off, again with one overhand knot, guiding both ends of the bottom string through. So what you have here is a very secure knot. Then the next thing we need to do is tie off our outside nylons, and it's really important that these are super tight because that's going to create our channel. So you can see we have our launch pocket that already has a nice channel, but we need to make sure that these stay tight so that the ball stays in the middle of the pocket and doesn't roll all over. So when tying these, we want to make sure that they're super tight, and you're just going to make a single knot driving through. So again, try to keep that as tight as possible as you're doing it. Pull tight. So this should look something like that. You're going to repeat the same process on the other side. Again, pulling tight, just making one loop, bringing your nylon through it, and then pulling tight so that you maintain that channel in the pocket. Okay. So now we've done our nylons and our runner. So the next step is we just want to trim our excess string here. So what I like to do is actually take these runners and make a knot, so that if I need to adjust, I have enough string to do so, but then any excess string beyond here, I really don't need. So I'm just going to take it, cut it an inch or so below. And then always make sure that you burn your ends. If you don't burn your ends, it will fray, and then you will find that your pocket breaks down. Okay, we're going to do the same things with this. We don't need any more than a couple inches here. Any more than that, it might get in your face, or it might get in your way you grip. So we're just going to trim them enough again so that we have room to adjust, but not any more than that. Okay. And then I just don't like any string up here. So that is your top string and the attachment of your launch pocket and nylon runners. So now we're going to move on to our sidewall. To begin our sidewall, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did with our top string, and with that we're going to make a double overhand knot. Okay, so I got my two loops, bring it through and pull tight. Okay, so to do this, we're going to take this string, we're actually going to put it through the same hole that we started with our top string. We're going to pull tight. And then we're going to proceed with the same steps as well. So we're going to go from the outside in through the head. And then again, we created this loop, and we want to make sure that we bring the sidewall and connect it. So it is just the same as your top string, but now we're doing it on the sidewall. And we're going to skip every other hole. So we're going to skip a hole, again, going from the outside in, coming up through that loop, and pulling tight. Again, make sure that you have this knot created. If you don't come back up through the loop, you won't have that knot created. So again, skipping another hole, going in from the outside in, from the outside in, and then on your last hole, you're going to proceed going from the inside out, again, because we're going to tie off, and then we're just going to use a double overhand knot. It's really important that the sidewall stays super tight, because again, that's controlling your pocket depth, and the tighter it is, the more consistent. So we got a double overhand knot. Just gonna tie it off. Okay. Then whatever you do to one side, you want to do the other. So we're going to go through the exact same thing, making our double overhand knot, skipping every other hole, and doing the sidewall. So going through the same hole as our top string, coming from the outside in, go all of the way down. Finally finishing going inside out, get it through the hole, and then a double overhand knot. Again, making sure that's super tight. So that is your sidewall, pretty simple. It should look something like that when you finish. Hey guys, Liz Hogan here again. Now that we've done our top string and our sidewall, we're going to be moving on to our cross lace of our Launch 2 pocket in our Crux 600. So now we're going to start with our cross lace, and to do that, we're going to take one end of our cross lace and guide it through that same loop that we used for our top string. Okay. And we want to make sure that we have equal lengths, or just about. And then we're actually going to tie just a regular old knot. Okay, this is going to secure our cross lace there so that you can work on both sides. So when we're stringing, we always string from the inside to the outside. So I'm going to start by stringing this inside. And we're going to do very similar to our sidewall and top string. You're going to go over the runner, come back up, making sure that you catch that loop, okay? And you'll notice that I'm using my hand to kind of maintain that integrity of the channel. If I don't, then it'll just fall flat. So I'm trying to keep my hand there to kind of pretend as if there was a ball in there. Now I'm going to go over to the nylon runner side. I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to take my cross lace, going to go over it, come back under, and again, making sure that I get that knot. And you'll notice I made a triangle here. Okay, so you want to make sure that your triangle isn't too one-sided, so I wouldn't put it there, and I wouldn't put it all the way down here. You're trying to make a very equal triangle. Okay, then I'm going to repeat the same process, but I'm going to go to the next diamond over here. So I'm going to drive my cross lace through, bring it up, and again, creating that knot. Okay, you want to make sure that these are also pretty tight. If you're too loose, then your pocket's going to be very inconsistent, possibly too deep. Okay, I'm going to go back over to my nylon, creating a very symmetrical triangle if I can. Go back to the side, again over, coming back under, connecting. You're going to do this all the way down, and you'll notice that your triangles start to get smaller and smaller. Okay. Work all the way down. And if it moves, that's okay. We'll just correct it. Again. Make sure you keep moving from the runner back to the nylon, and from the runner back to the nylon. As you get closer to the bottom, like towards the throat of the head, you're going to want to get a little bit tighter. Okay, you want your pocket to be up towards the top of the head, where the ball sits. You don't want it to be towards the base of the head. So you'll see as I'm getting here, I'm actually going to adjust my grip so that now I can just focus on the runner and keeping this part tight. Again, same thing the whole way down. I'm going up and around, coming back, getting that knot, getting tighter because I'm closer to the base of the head. And then for my last one, I'm just gonna go out towards the sidewall hole, okay? In women's lacrosse, you have to tie off your cross lace, so you can't just leave it hanging there and then also be inconsistent. You're gonna take it, bring it towards the outside, going through that same hole that you used for your sidewall string, and then you're gonna use a double overhand knot and tie it off. Again, we want this to be pretty tight. So we've done one side. Now we need to go ahead and do the other side, okay? Because we want our pocket to be symmetrical. So we don't want to go ahead and do the outside and then have our pocket pulled this way. We really want to make sure that we do the centers and then we work our way towards the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my other piece of cross lace. And we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. So I'm going to take my cross lace, drive it through that same loop that I used for my top string. Make sure that they're equal. I'm just going to tie a knot like I'm tying my shoes. Make sure that's tight. And then again, I'm going to proceed the exact same thing that I just did on that side over here. So I'm going to go over, come back under, making sure that I got that knot. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you kind of feel equal tension. So by that, you don't want to have one side pulling too much. You want to make sure that it feels even on your hand, okay, as you hold the runner in place. Again, going from the nylon back to the runner, trying to create those equal triangles. I like to make a little loop instead of actually taking my nylon and going this way. It just keeps it a little bit tighter. You can see it's a little bit more challenging to do it that way. Okay. And then again, as we work down a little bit further, we're going to get a little bit tighter. Work the whole way down, trying to keep those equal triangles. Through. All the way down to the end. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing that we did before. We're just gonna take that cross lace, drive it to the same hole that we used for our sidewall, and tie a double overhand knot. Okay, so now we have our center going, and you can see we got our channel. They all look pretty symmetrical. All right, so the knots on each side should be about the same place. Okay, so now we're gonna start with the outside. And the outside gets a little tricky because when we interlock our knots, which means when we bring the cross lace back together, they need to make a proper knot. So we'll get to that. But the first thing is we're gonna go towards the outside. Okay, so just like we went away from the center nylon, we need to go away, and that stays the same. So we're gonna go from the top back in. We're gonna pull tight. Okay. Now, instead of going over and coming back, we actually need to go under. Okay. So when we do that, it's just like doing the second half of the top string knot. So we're gonna come under, and again, lock that loop. And you'll see that now our cross lace interlocks. Okay, if you do it incorrectly and you go over both times, you'll see that you have an X formed. Okay, you wanna have a nice smooth interlock, so that's why we switch up going under and over. Okay, so into my nylon, now I'm gonna go back out to my sidewall. Again, this one is over as it was normally. I'm gonna come to this one. Need to go under, coming through that hole. Okay, so when I come, I'm actually interlocking this cross lace through the knot that I've already created. So I don't come here, I actually find that loop that it's created and come back up. Again, making sure that I lock that cross lace. Okay, so when you look at it from this side, you can also see that they're interlocked. Okay, the nylons actually go in between one another. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over to my sidewall, the normal knot. Okay, go back under, and again, coming through that hole that I've created with my other cross lace. I got my loop. Okay. And the same thing, I'm trying to create equal triangles over here on the sidewall. However, you might run into a couple sidewall knots, so you gotta just pick and choose where you go. So I'm gonna stay on the same one. Okay, go back to my nylon. Again, coming under, not going over. And pulling tight. We're just going to proceed the whole way down. Again, as you get closer to the bottom of the head, you want to pull a little bit tighter, forcing that ball to go towards the top, where the sweet spot is. Okay. Here. Tight. And then I actually am going to go through that last interlock that I did, even though it looks kind of funky, because I had to tie off. You're simply just going to come in, just like we did before. There's that little loop there. Hard to see. You can see that little loop. I'm just try to drive it through. And then the same thing, we're going to tie off. This might be a little challenging because it's going to be our third string going through this hole. But again, just coming from the outside, in, and then tying off. All right, so everything that you do to one side, you have to do the other side. So again, we're going to proceed now going on the outside over here. So we're going to drive through. Again, this one is normal, going from the back to the front. But then on this side, we need to go from the front, again, coming through that itty bitty hole. And then going through that loop that we created. Okay. It's important that when you're going back to the sidewall, especially in your second time, you look back over every once in a while to make sure that you're using the same gaps. Okay, so I wouldn't want to do 2 on this side if I only did 1 over here. So really make sure that you're checking back on your sidewall and that you're being consistent and even. Here, check back over. All right, again, back over to the side. Get through that hole. Okay, so this is an instance where I put 2 on the sidewall gap, so I'm going to stay here. Back down. Okay, go back here. Again, you're just going to get a little bit tighter as you get closer to the base of the head. Back through that hole. Okay. Almost done. Outside. Okay. Last one. Sidewall. And you're going to come back up. This is the most difficult one. Make sure you still have that knot. And then guide it through your last sidewall hole. And tie off with a knot. Once you're finished with your knot and you're pretty satisfied with your pocket, you can again trim and burn your nylons. Just really make sure that your pocket is kind of how you want it to be first in case you have any adjustments. Okay, so I got my pocket pretty much how I want it, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to trim these off so they don't get in the way when I'm cradling or just pass it around. Okay, so that is your cross lace, and now we're going to move on to our shooting strings. Hey guys, Liz Hogan here again. We're going to finish up our Launch 2 pocket by installing our shooting strings in our Crux 600. Alright, so now we're going to start with our shooting strings, and it's worth mentioning that in women's lacrosse you can only have 2 shooting strings. Your top shooting string has to be straight across, but your bottom shooting string can actually be a U. So when we get to our U, we're actually going to use the head to help guide us. You'll notice on the Crux 600 there's actually a difference in texture, and where that difference is where you can no longer go lower. Okay, your bottom shooting string has to be within the upper 2/3 of the head. Okay, so it can't start any lower than this one, but we'll get back to that. So to start, we're going to go through that first open sidewall hole. We're going to guide 1/2 of our shooting string through, and then all we're going to do is just go up and down through every diamond. So we're going to go, we just came up through this one, so we're going to go down. Okay, then we're going to come back up. We're going to go down, come back up. Down, up, down, up, down, and then through the hole. Okay. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, but all we're going to do now is go the opposite direction. So instead of coming up, now we're going to go down. And then we're going to come up instead of going down. And you'll notice as I'm doing it, I'm wrapping the nylon around. So I'm always going to go down on the bottom side and up on the top side, making sure that that wrap ends up happening. Okay, so down, up, down, up, down, up. And then when you finish, you're going to have your 2 ends, and all you're going to do is just finish with a normal overhand knot. You're going to make that loop and then drive both ends through it. Okay, so both ends. And then you're just going to pull tight. Okay, your top shooter can be a little bit tighter. Okay, because it's helping make sure that the ball goes off the shooter and not the tip of the head. And then your lower shooter, you want to make sure is a little bit looser so that it's not creating too much whip. Okay. So now starting with our bottom shooter, again, we're going to see that that texture change happens right here, but we're actually going to start with the first hole above the texture change. Okay, because we don't want to use a hole that our sidewall's going through. This one's in the smooth side, so this is our first opportunity to really use a U shooting string. Okay, so again, same thing. We are going to make an even cut. All right, and then now it's a little bit trickier because we need to kind of forge our path through. Okay, so we're going to come down, back up. Now we're going to go across. So we're going to go across the nylon. We're going to go down, come back up. And then we're going to use the same holes that we used for the top string, but we're going to go below the knot now. So we'll go down, come back up, go down, back up. Now we're crossing, go down, back up, and then we're going to go down and then guide it through that sidewall hole. Okay, then the same thing, same pattern, everything happens for the second half of our shooter. Again, this is a little bit trickier because we do have to wrap the shooter, but nothing changes. So as we go towards the bottom of the head, we're going to come down. As we go towards the top of the head, we're going to come up. We're going to go down, come back up. Go down, come back up, down, back up, down, back up. You notice you may have a little uneven, so you may have to pull this back through so you can have enough nylon to go around. Down. And then again, you're just gonna tie off with your normal knot. All right, so that is your launch pocket on a Crux 600.